What's going on, you guys? It's the boys, it's the gang, it's the crew, it's OddsHQ and odds.com, baby. We are down one man tonight. Locke will not be joining us. That guy works hard. He deserved a night off, you know what I mean? But we got Guru, we got Cody Saftic. But before we get going here, hit that thumbs up. Show us some love. You can at least do that, right? Guru, how you doing on this Friday night?
Yeah, man, doing good for sure. I know, we don't have Locke, so that sucks. But I saw he posted, on Twitter some big news. So good for him. I'm sure, he's having a good time. And, yeah, man, still have a pretty good card. It's a short notice main event, but it's still a good one. So, like always, I'm excited to be here and break it down with everyone.
No doubt. My man, Cody Saftic. What's going on, Cody?
Yeah, man, Locke busts his ass, so if anybody deserves a night off, it's him. But now there's only three of us, compadre. So what we're going to have is UFC the split decision, right? Oh, my base, I'm descending. And this is the kind of card, actually, you can make a legitimate argument for all the underdogs. It's like they're just not all going to come through. So which spots do you like? Which one are you going to pull the trigger in? So happy to be breaking it down with you guys.
No doubt. All right, well, let's get it going, man. First fight of the night, we got Jason Witt going up against Matheus Semelsberger at welterweight. Guru, why don't you get us going?
Yeah, this is one of these fights that, it's line close, and I think it's a pretty close fight because Semelsberger, he has the advantages in terms of he's definitely the better athlete, and he's going to be the bigger guy in there. I think he's like 6'2", and Witt's only like 5'9", 5'10", so he has that on his side, and I feel like he's kind of a green fighter, though. He's 7-2, and if you look at his record, I mean, he has some questionable losses as well. I think he lost to, a guy that was making his MMA debut in 2018, so that wasn't too long ago. But he is, like I said, he's a good athlete. He's a former, I think, college football player, and he's going to have the power advantage. I feel like his striking is pretty good, a little bit sloppy, but he has good elbows on the inside and some good crosses that he throws. And Witt is a guy that, very chinny guy. I think he's been knocked out 4 or 5 times. So that is the path to victory for Semelsberger. I think he has to land that big shot, take him out. And for Jason Witt, I mean, it's, in my opinion, going to be some of the same that he did in his last fight if he gets the win, getting the takedowns, getting on top and dominated Matheus Semelsberger. Because I've seen a few regional scene fights of Semelsberger where he was getting taken down, losing rounds against people that I didn't really think were super high level. But obviously, Semelsberger, a guy with, that type of frame and being young in MMA, he is going to probably be improving pretty rapidly. I did think he looked pretty good at the weigh-ins. But I'm actually going to go with Jason Witt. I think that, he's going to be able to implement his grappling. And I think that obviously he's the guy that's training out of a better camp, in my opinion, at Gloria MMA. And I think that, he just has a little bit more experience and is going to be able to get it done. But, if he gets knocked out, that's the path to victory for Semelsberger.
For sure. Cody Saftic, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, it's the tale of two fighters. Jason Witt is a guy that's been knocked out 5 times. He's been suspect chin as far as his regional scene career goes. And even like some of the fights that he's winning, he gets rocked in these fights. But what's his saving grace? He's able to clinch up with them and hopefully drag them to the ground. You've seen in his his 2 fights in the UFC, it's been the tale of two fighters, right? He tried to bum rush Takashi Sato. He got caught. And against Cole Williams, he took the high road and went back to his wrestling. And you see how he can be smothering. He's one of these guys that's not the highest end wrestler, but a grindy Midwest type guy, very experienced. And if he gets you to the ground, he's got good top pressure, and he's got these grinding little elbows, just chip away at you, bust you down, tire you out. Semelsberger, that's what he's there to be taken advantage of. His takedown defense, as far as the regional scene goes, it hasn't been great. We've seen a new wrinkle to his game against Carlton Minus on that he was flipping in a few takedowns of his own, but still, it's still work in progress stuff. He's only 28. He's got a wicked good frame for this division, 6'2", 75-inch reach. And again, I mean, as Guru pointed out at weigh-ins, dude looked filled out and thick. I could see Jason Witt going out there, scoring a takedown in the first round, winning the first round. I could see Jason Witt in the second round potentially getting a little bit tired, not getting that takedown, and getting knocked out. And so I am also going to back Witt in this spot, but very much we could be in cruise control until he gets caught. I mean, if he is going to lose this fight, I think he is going to get chin checked. But we got to go with experience. And also James Krause, one great thing out of Gloria is that he's done a great job of taking a lot of, I don't want to say mid-level talents, but the Tim Elliott's of the world, the Zach Cummings of the world, and just putting together these wicked good game plans. And you see that with Witt, right? With Cole Williams offered up nothing, right? He was missed weight. He was in awful shape. He just doesn't have an advanced skill set. He shouldn't have been there in the first place. But you've seen Witt, it's like just go to this game plan to slow this guy down, grind him down, chip away at him, and then once he's vulnerable, try to go for that submission. Witt by submission, interestingly enough, is like plus 550, right? And so you did see him submit his last opponent, all right? He does have like 8 career wins by submission. And Semelsberger has also been submitted, right? We've seen porous takedown defense. Like, that's a crazy prop bet that you could chase. But more often than not, I think that Witt just grinds this thing down. And shout out to, the guy that actually used to sit in Locke's position, Brady, DFS by the numbers. And he made a funny remark. He was like, Witt could be winning this entire fight and get caught. He could look like a minus 300 until he gets caught. I agree with that assessment. He could be in cruise control, but this is going to be a dangerous fight from top to bottom. So do I want a ton of overexposure in it? No. Do I want a ton to value? No. But to make the straight pick, I think I'm going to take Jason Witt, and I would lean towards Witt by decision. But again, that submission prop's pretty juicy. Right
on. Yeah, I mean, this fight's lined incredibly close, and I think it's going to be a very close fight. And honestly, I don't really have a strong read, I don't think very highly of both guys. I do think they both came in tremendous shape. I think we're probably going to see the best Witt we've seen. And I think you look at, the way Semelsberger looked, man, you can watch all the tape on him on the regional scene. This dude really seems to have taken, his workouts to the next level. And physically, it seems to show. I lean more towards the Semelsberger side. Something tells me he's going to be able to catch Witt. I mean, there's such clear paths to victory here, right? And I feel like the fight really comes down to whether or not Semelsberger is going to be able to stay standing. If Witt repeatedly dumps this guy down, stays in top position, it's going to be a clear-cut win for Witt. But at some point, I do think Semelsberger is probably going to catch him with some good shots. But, man, I don't have a solid read on this one. I went Semelsberger early in the week. Give me Semelsberger still. But all in all, man, I think from a betting standpoint, it's just gonna have to be a pass for me. I don't have a strong feel either way. Give me Semelsberger, but I do feel like this is a 50-50 fight. Absolutely. Okay, second fight of the night. We got Jinh Frey coming in here against Gloria de Paula. This is a 115-pound scrap. Cody, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, so again, now I'm really trying to bank on that Gloria de Paula has made all these great improvements. But again, when you just look at a regional show career, like there's just not much you can go off of. She's 5-2. Her 2 losses have come to UFC veterans, albeit not super high level ones, but she's getting out grappled. Like, you go out there, she gives up the takedown, doesn't have a great grappling game. As far as her striking goes, you can tell that she's powerful. She's got like that shoot to box style, moves forward, tries to be aggressive, tries to outpoint you. I think that's going to be the key here in Jinh Frey is that, very much I'm of the train of thought that Jinh Frey is too talented to just fan out of the UFC and go 0-3. But again, I mean, she's not a 115-pound fighter. She's fought in her entire career at 105 pounds. And even at 105 pounds, she had the same 2 issues that she has at 115. She's getting out muscled around by opponents, and she doesn't throw enough volume. And so as far as her UFC debut goes, that's exactly it. I mean, 2 fights in the UFC. And again, you could say, well, geez, Kay Hansen's a grappler, and she was looking okay in that fight until she got submitted in the third. And, Loma Lukabume was not going to give her any space, like completely just mauled her in the clinch. Like, okay, another tough outing. But the same goes. I mean, she lands 26 significant strikes in each of those fights. She just doesn't quite let her hands go. With Padula, you see her on Dana White's Contender Series. Again, coming on to the show, it's like, well, where did they find her? She just didn't really have much of a recent body of work. But you see her against Matheus, it's like, here's a judo black belt, high-level grappler. She does get taken down, but she scrambles back up. She's throwing up submission attempts. And that was a new wrinkle to her game, is that she had this grappling. So apparently she's girlfriends with Marina Bueno Silva, another UFC veteran. She's taking her training extremely seriously. And again, here's someone who's probably started off as a striker who's now adding those wrinkles. She's still young. She's aggressive enough that I think this is probably going to shake out to be a striking match, and she's just going to have a little more volume. But I don't want a ton on it. If there was one fight on this card that I would say I don't really want much to do with, it would be this one, just because I'm betting against Jinh Frey, right? As we're all 2-0 betting against her so far in the UFC, but this is going to be more of a striker versus striker style. She is going to be a little more refined. She does have the better jiu-jitsu if this fight was to hit the ground. You did see her go out there and take Lukabume down early in the 3rd round. So, like, why not come out here and throw a wrinkle? Her husband, Douglas Frey, BJJ black belt, former Texas regional scene guy, longtime fan favorite over in those parts, but I could see her coming in and surprising us a little bit, but I don't want to bet the dog. I don't want no exposure of Jinh Frey herself, so I'm going to bet against her. I'm going to take Padua, but I'm just not the most confident. It's not like my drive home bet of the night, but I am going to go the other side here.
Absolutely. Guru, who you got?
Yeah, like Cody was saying, this is a fight that's pretty close. And, I mean, looking at Gloria de Paula, I feel like she has, good potential because she's young, and I think she's kind of a dangerous fighter everywhere, where she has a pretty good submission game. She's throwing up triangles, arm bars off her back. She was attacking that, the guillotine in her last fight, and she has some power and she has a decent frame where she throws, nice crosses. But, what I didn't like about Paula is, in both fights where she fought a girl that was, willing to walk through her shots and walk her down, she just backed straight up to the fence. She has real bad footwork, in my opinion, and, she doesn't really move her head. So she allowed girls that I don't really think are super high level and, like Isabella de Padula, just, get her against the cage, land big combinations, rock her, take her down, and really dominate her, in that fight. And then she fought a girl in Pauline Macias where she was the favorite in that fight. So it wasn't, like she was fighting a super, high level girl in that fight. I watched a couple of Pauline Macias's fights as well before that, and she was going to split decisions with girls that were 0-1 and stuff like that. So I don't really think Macias, even though she has that judo background, she doesn't have good jiu-jitsu and she doesn't have any stand-up. So it's basically, just the threat of the takedown, and, Gloria was able to use her jiu-jitsu to get the win. But in this fight, I mean, I'm not super confident on it, but I just feel like Frey is, the better fighter. I think she's going to be able to, if she can have a similar game plan to the one she had against Loma, where she was backing her up. I do agree she wasn't throwing nearly enough volume, but she was able to back Loma up and get into the clinch, and Loma was just way better than her in the clinch. Whereas I think with Gloria de Paula, I think she's going to, be the better fighter in the clinch, maybe get some takedowns. She was landing some nice elbows against Loma in that fight as well. She did get that takedown in the third round. So I'm going to go with Jinh Frey in this one, but, not a super confident pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys totally nailed it. I got to tell you what, though, boys. Smelling armbar from guard here. I'm smelling armbar from guard. Jinh Frey, it's like you said, Cody, traditionally fighting a weight class down. We are hearing some rumblings. I think that women's 145 might be going, but we might be cycling into something. That's just a little rumor I'm going to put out there. I can't substantiate that at all. But, I think she is a true atom weight. When you look at her physique, I mean, she's very fit, very big, got some shoulders on her. You'd think she's really got some strength, but, I think it's that size discrepancy, right? And, I didn't think we were going to have much of a size discrepancy just going off the tape. But, man, at weigh-ins today, we found out De Padua definitely going to have some size on Frey here. I think that could be the difference. I think she might be able to muscle her. One thing we got to talk about, man, Jinh Frey, 35 years old. I mean, more than a full decade older than Gloria here. I'm gonna do an age fade on this one. I love to do it. I'm gonna take Gloria. I'm gonna take the younger fighter. Like I said, I'm feeling armbar from guard here. We saw Jinh go in there against Kay Hansen, pretty close back and forth fight. The fight I think ends up getting finished in the third round. I just got a feeling that we've seen where Kay Hansen kind of sits from a talent level now that we've seen her run it back more than one fight. I'm not overly impressed, man. I think Jinh, we might have seen her better days, in Japan, down a weight class. Give me Gloria in this one. All right. So that takes us up to another chick fight. We got Courtney Casey versus JJ Aldrich. And we even got one later on down the card. I was going to say they're giving us that women's action here early, but no, we do actually cap off the prelims with Angela Hill, Ashley Yoder. But Courtney Casey, JJ Aldrich, another, well, it's a 125er actually. Guru, I think we're on Guru. Hit us with it, Guru.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is one of these fights where it's like, you want to just guess maybe it's going to be a split decision or something, right? I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm going to go with JJ Aldrich in this one. I feel like she has better footwork, in my opinion, better movement, and her boxing is, decent. She was landing some big shots on Sabina Mazo. I feel like even if she wanted to, she could mix in some grappling. I mean, we know Courtney Casey's takedown defense is really non-existent essentially, but I mean, Courtney Casey could get a submission in this fight for sure. Maybe she could hurt JJ Aldrich. I mean, we saw JJ Aldrich dominating Macy Barber, basically, got a 10-8 in the first round, and then she got hurt in the second, taken out. So who knows? But I mean, I've heard Courtney Casey this week talk about, moving up to 135. She's, older. I feel like, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on her mindset, everything like that. And I feel like JJ Aldrich is, before the Macy Barber fight and Sabina Mazo, I mean, those fights were close and competitive, like I've said, where the Sabina Mazo fight, people thought she could have won. Macy Barber, she dominated the first round. So I think she's, maybe on a little bit of a better trajectory, but, yeah, this is another fight that I don't want anything to do with really, but yeah, I'm going to go with JJ.
Right on. Cody Saftik, who you got?
Yeah, I honestly, I really agree with the assessment that it could be a split decision, because I think it comes down to who's watching it. Who are the judges that are watching this one? What I mean by that is that we all agree it's going the distance, right? If Cortney Casey was to win this fight, it's going to be by decision. If JJ Aldrich wins this fight, probably by decision. The odds makers agree, and this fight to go the distance is like minus 400. The key here is that JJ Aldrich doesn't throw a ton of volume. She's a much better striker. She's much more refined, but she doesn't deal particularly well with volume and getting backed up. So you do see in the Macy Barber fight, she looks fantastic in the first round. But Barbara's just aggressive in the second round, backs her up, hits her, ends up hurting her, and puts her away. And then in the Sabina Mazo fight, as much as it was a close competitive fight, and she lands by far the better strikes, she gets outstruck like 128 to 58. So again, it's just volume kind of gets away from her. So Cortney Cast Iron Casey, they call her Cast Iron for a reason. This girl's tough. She's aggressive. She'll at least stand in the pocket and throw with you. And she's got a willingness to scrap, and she throws some decent volume. So I can see her pressing JJ Aldrich backwards, trying to make this a dirty fight. And I can see some judges rewarding the forward movement, rewarding the volume. But yeah, no, again, I think JJ Aldrich is just a much more technical striker. And yeah, I think Guru brought up the best points, really. You look at the loss against Macy Barber, and it's probably a 10-8 first round. She drops her twice. She's really clean. She's really precise. But even the Sabina Mazo fight, man, Sabina Mazo was wearing some serious damage by that third round. Like, those shots are clean. They're really precise. And that's the thing with JJ Aldrich. Yeah, she's a work in progress, but she's still very young. She's the number one training partner for Rose Namajunas. So, she's always getting world championship rounds in the gym on a day-to-day basis. And Trevor Whitman really does have her classically trained. Her striker, she's always been just a striker, right? But she does have a BJJ brown belt. You see that she has been working a lot on her grappling. And again, there's another path. Cortney Casey, I believe she just got rewarded her black belt maybe last year. But again, I don't know that an armbar from guard's happening in this fight. But more realistically, it's like the girl just allows takedowns to happen so easily. So even in the close round where JJ's landed the better shots, Cortney Casey's pressuring a little bit, if you just mix in a takedown or two, that's what's going to solidify the round for JJ. And I'm hoping that that's going to be enough for two of these three judges to decide it for her. So I'm going to take a JJ Aldrich, and I'm going to go JJ Aldrich by decision.
Yeah, I'm on JJ Aldrich too, and I think you're right, Cody. This fight absolutely screams decision no matter which way it goes. Honestly, to summarize the fight, I don't think there's a massive skill discrepancy between both these chicks. I do think JJ Aldrich is technically better. I like her coaching. I like what she has going on behind the scenes. Cortney Casey, a 500 fighter. We see this in the women, right? She's just so unreliable. She's got some decent wins on her record, but you know what? She's got some bad L's too. And I consistently, when I think of Cortney Casey, think of that moment in the fight against Felice Herrig, where they both kind of circled themselves later in a fight and ended up just kind of throwing up middle fingers, daring the other one to go first. I don't think you really have that problem with JJ Aldrich. Even though she doesn't necessarily have as much output, I do think Aldrich is going to be the one that's going to be inclined to go first. I think she's going to be the one that's essentially going to lead this fight, lead the dance. I could see this fight playing out close. I feel like every Cortney Casey fight is, no matter which side you back, it's a nail biter waiting for the scorecards to come in. I got JJ Aldrich in this one. She has had some time off. I thought Cortney Casey might be significantly taller, significantly longer. Aldrich actually looked pretty big at weigh-ins today. So give me JJ Aldrich. Plain and simple, man. I just think she's better. Cortney Casey, I don't know what to think. She could definitely win this fight. I think it's going to be a fairly close fight. Again, another fight that I don't know if I could figure out a way to bet this one. Even if he took any over, it's got to be minus 450 goes to a decision. Give me Aldrich, but I think from a betting standpoint, I'm just going to have to pass on this one. All right, so that's leading us up to very short notice replacement. Nasrat Haqparast stays on the card, taking on Rafa García, 12-0, coming over from Combate America, lightweight fight. Cody Saftik, hit us with it.
Okay, so this bad gut feeling I got is that Haqparast is going to be my apple pie shitter, because otherwise, why would you like him? He's got the UFC experience. You see him compete at a higher level. He's got good output. He's young. He's training out of a good gym, and here's a guy that's just got all the intangibles. He could easily be a top 15 guy. He could definitely be a top 10 guy, and maybe even make a run as far as the top 5. He's got all the skills. He's just got to be able to go and put it all together. But why I get such a bad gut feeling is that, bear with me on this. Going back to the Drew Dober fight, didn't look like he had a very good weight cut down to 155. He is kind of a big frame guy for the weight class. Goes out there, he gets caught by Dober minute in. We give him a pass, no problem. Joe Dober is a big power puncher, and you get caught by him, it's no big deal. But one's got to wonder if he didn't have a bad weight cut. Maybe that's why he got folded by the first punch that landed clean. Then going back to the Arman Sarukian fight, which was supposed to be his last time out, he bailed at he got sick cutting weight to 155. So all week, a big thing for me is that I really want to see him on the scales. I really want to see him on the scales. And that's why I love when we do this Friday night show, is that finally we get to see the weigh-ins and it's like our last little bit of analysis. So I see the fucking guy get on the scale and he doesn't look particularly good, doesn't look bad. But then right away, it's just he needs the curtain. The curtain comes out. He's got his hands up praying, please, I don't want to cut even an ounce more of weight. And he does make weight. So, yeah, we've got a fight. I think he's the superior fighter. I think he's got the better skill set. But Rafa García is no joke, man. First of all, he's only 26 years old. He is training at a high level. And he's one of these young, aggressive guys. He's 12-0. He's got nothing to lose. He's fought some 3 UFC veterans already. Not exactly the highest caliber of UFC veterans, but has given a good account of himself. And is there a world where he goes out there and backs up Haqparast and lands that big shot and hurts him and takes advantage? Sure. Even Haqparast's last time against Munoz, right? I mean, I'm rolling that train of it was not a lucky punch, but you know what I mean? He got caught. It's no big deal. But even in Munoz, it's you see he's still a work in progress. He still gets flustered in there. And sometimes he runs out of that next thing to do, right? I'm not saying Rafa García is this next level talent. I mean, he's a dangerous dog in that we don't really know enough about him. You know, he did fight 5 rounds. He's young. He's out of a camp, but he's on short notice. There's a lot of things that you can take in consideration. So again, I got Haqparast winning this fight. But any other week, you know what I mean? This ends up being one of my top ticket guys. I end up tweeting it out, and I got Nasrat in the first line. And then what happens is Nasrat has a good first round, and then similar to a Mario Batista, he just gets caught by something at some point, folds over, and you can do nothing but be shit, I thought I had the better guy, but he got caught. Nasrat is the better guy, but there's at least that chance he gets caught. I don't know if 55 is a long-term weight class for him. He's still young. He's still growing. He's still filling out. At some point, maybe he ends up at 170. And would he be as effective as a welterweight? No, probably not. But, everyone likes to joke he looks like Kelvin Gastelum. And, similar to Kelvin Gastelum, he might end up fighting up a weight class. It might just be better for his body, right? Who knows? So I am going to go with Haqparast. Haqparast is my guy. I don't know. I want to feel a lot better about it.
Boy, I understand that. I mean, he's failed as the big favorite before, so I say definitely proceed with caution. Guru, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Rafa García, I watched a few of his fights, and I think he's pretty good. But to me, I mean, I'm not sold on him coming in here and fighting a guy like Nasrat Haqparast because, I mean, I feel like he's more of a grappler for sure. I mean, you see it a lot of his fights. He just uses the forward pressure to hit the takedown, and on top, he isn't super dangerous in my opinion. He has a heel hook finish that he's got, and if he could take the back, he can hit some rear naked chokes. But more of a guy that just throws big bombs on top, likes to or throws big bombs on the feet, and then just likes to get on top and control you a little bit. And I feel like Haqparast saw a guy that was a better wrestler than García in Alex Munoz in his last fight. So I don't necessarily think García is going to hit the takedowns, and I feel like. Munoz, or I mean, not Munoz. I feel like, Haqparast on the feet is just going to be able to really exploit García when he opens up because I feel like he gets real wide trying to close that distance and really just tries to force a brawl so he can get the takedown. And I think Haqparast is just, seen a level above that level. But, stranger things have happened. I mean, if García can get it to the ground, I do think that he's probably going to be able to control on top. He looks like he has good guard passing ability too, and gets into these good positions. He has a good ground and pound. He could wear you down. So if he can get in top position in one of these first couple rounds, then I think the fight could be a lot closer because I could see him maybe stealing around, maybe getting, Nasrat a little bit tired. But, if that doesn't happen, I think Nasrat will probably get the knockout. And I do eventually think he's probably going to find the knockout. So I'm going to go with Nasrat here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to end up going Nasrat too. I like Rafa. You know what I mean? This is a guy, he's undefeated, finally getting a shot in the UFC. But man, this guy's coming in on 3 days' notice against a very dangerous up-and-coming prospect. Now, I understand, just to get your foot in the door, to get, you take a fight like this on 3 days' notice against a guy like Nasrat Haqparast, you're kind of going to lose the fight, right? You're kind of expected to lose the fight, but you're going to get your chances. You're going to get at least 2 more fights to prove that you are worthy of being in the UFC, right? Guru, you brought up a good point, man. Nasrat, or Rafa, right? The grappling, the fact that he has a heel hook. My man Nasrat has lost to a guy named Marcin Held. Now, I know to the casual, Marcin Held might not really hold a lot of weight, but man, dude can grapple. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I think Rafa has a chance to win this fight, and we've seen Nasrat come up short as a heavy favorite. I don't know what it is, if it's the Kelvin Gastelum lookalike rub, but man, people love to steam this dude Nasrat. And don't get me wrong, I get it. You know, it feels like the intangibles are there. You watch the kid and his wins, very, very impressive, but you know, it's tough for me to trust this guy at this kind of a number. You know, we discredit Rafa saying, man, he's got so much to do, you know, coming in on a fight like this, 3 days notice. It's so tough. I mean, Nasrat's also going to have to fight a guy that he did not prepare for at all during camp and is now going to have to make quite a few adjustments to come in here and fight this fight against a guy like Rafa. I'm going to take Nasrat. He's steamed way too far. At the same time, maybe he goes out there and performs and it makes sense. But this fight feels too volatile to me, man. There's just too many things going on. I got question marks on both sides. Nasrat is the pick, though. All right, let's see here. We got Yahya versus Ray Rodriguez. And Guru, I think you're up first on this one.
Yeah, man. This is one of these fights that, you know, Ray Rodriguez, he's a longtime veteran on the regional scene, so it's good to see that he finally got his chance in the UFC. But fuck, man, you could have given him some easier matchups, right, than, you know, the first two guys that they gave him. But, I mean, he's taking on Yahya, who, in my opinion, I mean, he's a guy that is usually a big underdog, and I feel like he's an underrated guy. But in this fight, he's the big favorite. I think he's 11-4-1 in the UFC. So, I mean, he has a really good track record fighting in the UFC. His last fight with Enrique Barzola, he was a big underdog, went in there and performed well. It was a draw, but, you know, he was actually the one that, in my opinion, won the first 2 rounds, and I thought he should have won, but, you know, the third round, you know, they gave it a 10-8 for Barzola. But, I mean, it's 2 grapplers here. I do think Ray Rodriguez maybe has a slight advantage technically on the feet, but, you know, Ray Rodriguez's defense is not very good, and Yahya is a guy that's a very aggressive striker, you know, if anything. So I do think that the striking on the feet is going to be pretty close. But, I mean, I just see Yahya being able to hit the takedowns eventually. I mean, he has that really good single leg that he always goes to. And, you know, when he gets on top, he's just real suffocating. The only thing you have to worry about, I guess, is if Rodriguez can extend that fight into the later rounds. Yahya always tends to get tired in that third round. But it's not like Ray Rodriguez is necessarily, you know, a big finisher. We did see, you know, and I've seen a couple people point out, you know, he did finish a guy like Jimmy Flick, who's a similar type fighter to Yahya, but I mean, that's a guy that's a flyweight, and he has, you know, chin and durability issues, whereas Yahya, I think he's only been knocked out twice in his whole career. He's gone to decision with guys like Chad Mendes, super hitters. So, I mean, I feel like Ray Rodriguez knocking him out is kind of unlikely, and I do feel like Yahya probably will be able to get that submission eventually. But this is a fight that, you know, I could see Yahya maybe even winning by decision too, which is good plus money. So, you know, I got Yahya on this one, and I think he should get it done.
Right on. Cody Saftik, who you got?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm betting Yahya because, again, he's always the underdog. Like, he's got the grappling, no doubt about that. 2003 ADCC champ. It's like, whoa, that's a long-ass time ago, man. But it's like, man, he's always been able to keep a job. He's been always been able to keep relatively competitive against the better guys of the division just because, man, his jiu-jitsu, it's always bailed him out. The problem is that he's an ankle diver. Like, he doesn't have the wrestling to really put his jiu-jitsu into play, but he just peels you to the ground, just dives in an ankle. And he's got no cardio. So my problem with him has always been the same thing. He's got suspect wrestling. He's got suspect striking. He's got suspect cardio. He's just got really good jiu-jitsu. And when they match him up against bottom of the barrel type competition, he gets them to the ground. He wrangles them to the ground. He submits them. That's fair enough. We all understand that about him. But if you can take him to some deeper waters, he routinely tires out. You go back to like the Masahori Kanehara fight where it's like he's just diving on ankle after ankle, barely squeaks out a close decision. You go to that Barzola fight his last time out where he actually fights a brilliant first 2 rounds. And then the third round, it rears its ugly head and he gets tired again. But now he's 36 years old. He's coming off a 1.5 year long absence. Is his cardio all of a sudden going to be way better? No, not at all. So Ray Rodriguez really just needs to get this thing into some deeper waters and then try to force, you know, potentially. Here's the problem, right? So Ray Rodriguez has got 3 knockout wins, 8 submission wins. So he's a grappler himself. He likes to get the submission. Is he submitting Yahya? No fucking chance. So his path is, okay, knockout Yahya. But again, with 3 knockout wins of like 16 career victories, he's not a knockout guy. And then with Yahya, he hasn't been knocked out since 2009. So how do you defeat this guy, right? Well, I'm just going to outlast him. Well, if you outlast him, you better make sure you don't drop those first 2 rounds. And I think that's the way this one's going to go, worst case. I'm also going to chase that Rani by submission prop, just being that with Ray Rodriguez, again, this is a guy that fancies himself a grappler, but getting submitted by Brian Kelleher in less than a minute, no big deal, right? Especially by the guillotine choke. That's his move. The submission loss to Chris Gutierrez by rear naked choke, it's like getting submitted in the first round by a guy that's known to have, some spotty grappling. It's not a great spot to be going out there against Rani Yahya. So Ronnie's just got to get this fight to the ground as quick as he can and get that submission before he starts to get tired. But last thing is that Rani Yahya has really worked on his striking. And I thought in the Ricky Simone fight especially, and then the fight against Barzola, you see where he'll throw with reckless abandon because, what are you going to do? Are you going to shoot a reactionary takedown on him? No. He's got something I thought this was funny. When I first saw it, he's got a 26% takedown defense, and it was just 26, but then it was oh yeah, it's he just gives it to you. Go ahead, take me down. You don't want to grapple with this guy. So what's Ray going to do? He's just got to play Matador for the 10 minutes and win at least 2 of these rounds. I don't see it happening. So I'm going to go with Rani Yahya. I don't like this money line. It's way too big. Rani Yahya, especially at 36 in the long layoff, definitely not a guy that I have a ton of confidence in, but this is the level of matchup that he generally shines in. And I think at some point this fight hits the ground and he locks that submission. And Ray did look good at weigh-ins and Ronnie looked terrible, but Ronnie, that's how he looks. His body composition, he's not muscular. He's just got one of those skinny BJJ builds. But once he gets the fight into his domain, you'll learn very quickly. There's very few guys in the entire UFC really that have that kind of smothering game to them, right? So I think Ronnie picks up the submission somewhere within the first 2 rounds. If he doesn't, I'm hitting that live bet hedge out on Rodriguez because Ronnie's going to be real tired. But I think he gets the job done by submission.
Right on. Yeah, I'm on Hani as well. One thing I want to point out, because I do feel like you guys have covered pretty much this fight, and I feel pretty much the same way, but Hani Yahya, okay, 12 different submissions. Now, I'm not saying this guy has 12 submission wins on his record. I'm telling you he has 12 different submission wins. Do you have any idea how insane that is, that this guy has caught people in 12 different fight finishing maneuvers? What that tells me is Hani Yahya is dangerous from anywhere. You let this guy snatch anything up, whether it be a leg, an arm, a head in arm, anything. This dude can finish a fight. And I feel like that's the weakness of Ray Rodriguez, who in his own right has finished fights by 6 different submissions. I'd be talking him up with the variation if he wasn't going up against a guy like Hani Yahya, who, like I said, is just catching you from anywhere. Hani Yahya, he's an old guy. You guys know I love going against these old little dudes. Not the case though, man. He has had some time off, but I was actually pretty impressed with his performance against an Enrique Barzola in his last fight. Enrique Barzola, a bigger guy, a guy that seemed to be stronger. I feel like we're in a similar situation here. Ray Rodriguez does seem to be the bigger man, does seem to be a little bit stronger. Hani Yahya, he's going to fade late in this fight, man, and the cardio might even be worse than it's ever been. But I still think Hani is going to be live. I expect him to win the early part of this fight. I do think he probably finds that submission at some point. Part of me says this could even be quick. I think Hani might really snatch this dude up with something right off the bat in this fight. I'm going to take Hani Yahya. Not in love with the odds, but what are we going to do, right? We can't do nothing. Give me Hani Yahya. All right, we're still rocking some prelims. We got Charles Jourdain getting in there against Marcelo Rojo. Cody, I think you're up on this one.
Yeah, so the UFC's giving you a bunch of women's fights and a bunch of Canadian fights on this card. And we got Charles Jourdain first and foremost we'll talk about. I don't want to say he's like a busted prospect. Dude's still super young. And I find like he's still figuring out what exactly is his game. When he was a TKO champ over here in Canada, he'd fight at 155 pounds and 145 pounds. But he's like grossly undersized at 155. He's got a bad takedown defense. I mean, TJ Laramie put a massive wrestling clinic on him back in TKO. And then you saw in his UFC debut against Des Green. Again, I mean, Des Green puts the clinic on him, but that's at 155, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The Andre Fili fight, I thought he was really close and competitive with Fili, but what cost him was his takedown defense. Fili wanted those takedowns, late in the round. He would get those takedowns. That's what sealed it for him. But again, going out there, knocking out Doo Ho Choi, that's a credible victory. Being in a close split decision loss to Andre Fili, that's credible, man. This guy's a top 15 competitor. The loss in your debut against Des Green, that's no big deal. He was on short notice, up a weight class in Rochester, which is Des Green's backyard. A very tough task for your UFC debut. So I'm giving all these passes. But again, when you see him fight, it's like he's very wild. He's not he's got that style where he likes to be rangy, but he's not super elusive. Like, he's very hittable. He leaves his head there a lot. He likes to spin. A lot of the times it's not warranted, but he just creates this chaotic pace. Now, a lot of times you go out there with that chaotic pace, the guy doesn't know what's coming, and you're able to catch something and break him something. But as you start to move in UFC and you take on some of these tough customers, like some of these guys they have that no nonsense approach and they just walk right through it. Josh Kulabau really was one of those guys. I don't think he's extremely talented. He's coming out of a very lackluster gym. All the cards are stacked against him, and you've got Charles Jourdain is a big favorite. But Kulabau hurts him bad in that first round. He's got him massively rocked. Wins a 10-8 first round. Jourdain does work his way back into it in the second and third. That's what ends up with the draw. By the way, I got Jourdain massively bet in that spot. I know a lot of people did. And I am so happy to get that draw. Oh, yeah. I was like, push, perfect, no problem. But it was a good realization that, at least with Jourdain, he's got some growing to do. He's going to need another 5, 6, 10 fights in the UFC before he really starts to refine out his game. And again, by a guy that's just like trying to still piece it all together. When he was fighting for TKO, he was a decent grappler. The guy has good top pressure. He likes to chase submissions. So he's worked a lot on his jiu-jitsu. And when you have that bad of takedown defense, surely you're going to be fighting off your back a lot. So he became comfortable in that realm. He does have a good, decent submission game. But as far as him in the UFC goes, he's just going out there and swinging and looking to bang. And that doesn't really play good against Rojo, who, again, came into weigh-ins today and looked awesome. And I think that's partly, and this is the reason why I am going to keep with Charles Jourdain, even though I don't love it, is that Rojo's fought his entire career at 135 pounds, right? He has, I think his last fight was a catchweight of 139. That was like the first time he had kind of jumped up. But now you're jumping into 145 against Jourdain, who again was the TKO champ at 155, did make his UFC debut at 155, does figure to be the bigger guy. But Rojo looked in good shape at the weigh-ins. He's a guy that does have a lot of experience. He's already a more matured fighter. And I think he's just going to come forward and make this a greasy fight, right? Use those big power strikes. And again, you've seen Kulabau have a lot of success backing this kid up, using that aggression, and hitting him. And I think Rojo could very much do the same thing. I got a feeling that Jourdain's going to switch it up and use his grappling in this fight. But again, I mean, is his wrestling anything to write home about? No, not exactly. So I'm going to side with the Canadian here. I don't feel great about it. And again, he's kind of been a little underwhelming. I should say underwhelming. Like the Duo Choi fight, he's losing the first round. He loses the first, and the second round he catches him. In the Feely fight, it's close. It's competitive. It's a good account. The Kulabau fight's a letdown, but like, you know what I mean? Like, he's still trying to find his footing in the division still. So, again, I am going to take Charles Jourdain. I'm going to go Charles Jourdain by decision. The submission prop as well was like crazy, but that's just because, he hasn't really been grappling as of late. So why would I have faith that he's going to go and use it in this fight? It's just that seems like the best path of victory here for him. So I'm hoping he does that, but regardless, I'm going to go Jourdain by decision, I think.
Guru, who you got?
Yeah, close fight in my opinion. I feel like the line is, kind of off. I don't know why Charles Jourdain is always, such a huge favorite in a lot of these fights. But, I mean, I feel like the striking in this fight, I feel like Rojo actually has the better striking technically. I mean, he throws real nice leg kicks and he switches stances and, good footwork. You could tell he has good forward pressure. And his boxing is definitely a lot better than Charles Jourdain's. I mean, throws a lot sharper combinations, but Charles Jourdain is just kind of has that wild factor, like Cody was saying, a lot of spins, a lot of, flying attacks. And he has that real nice left hook that, we've seen him hurt multiple people with. But really, if you look at his UFC career, even his one win against Dooho Choi, I mean, he was kind of getting dominated the entire fight before he landed that left hook and kind of just starched him. So, I mean, he hasn't really been that successful in the UFC. Even if you watch his last fight with Josh Kulabau, a guy that I don't think is nearly the striker that a guy like Marcelo Rojo is, he really, beat up Charles Jourdain's legs. Charles wasn't checking any of the low kicks. And I think that if he doesn't check the low kicks against Marcelo Rojo, that could be a big issue for him as the fight goes on. And Marcelo's one of these guys, though, that if you look at his career, he has either a first round finish or he usually loses the fight. So that's kind of something that I don't really like to see. But, he is training at Entrim Gym, which is, a really good gym. I mean, they have a lot of guys that came to the UFC. He's one of the main training partners for Brandon Moreno. So I do think, with this year and a half off, he's still said in a few interviews that he's been training every day, still working. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe he's going to come in here and even look a little bit better than he has before. And I feel like, for Charles Jourdain to win, I think he's going to have to grapple, like Cody said. I think he should try to hit takedowns because we've seen guys like John Castaneda, when they're losing on the feet against Rojo, they were able to take him down pretty easily and, get that submission. I don't really feel like Rojo is a very good grappler. But, I mean, Charles Jourdain has 0 takedowns in the UFC, 0 takedown attempts. So, I mean, to expect him to come in here with the grappling game plan, I don't necessarily know if I could see that happening. And, I mean, Rojo's a durable guy, too. Neither of these guys have been knocked out. So, I mean, Charles Jourdain, if he can't get that finish, I feel like Rojo is going to be, the more technical, successful guy on the feet with the stand-up. So, I'm just going to go with the underdog here, and I'm going to take Marcelo Rojo to win the fight.
Right on. Well, I got to tell you, Guru, man, I was very close to taking Rojo myself. I'm getting too hung up on the fact, Cody, that you brought up. Rojo's been a career 135er going up against a guy who's a true 145er who spent time at 155. Charles Jourdain, man, I still don't know what to think about this guy. And I almost feel like I'm repeating myself talking about some of these earlier fights. I don't know why this guy's always such a heavy favorite. You know what I mean? I feel like he's a little bit unproven, even fights that he ended up winning, the Doo Ho Choi fight, he's like you guys said, he's losing the fight until he wins. The Kulabao fight. I mean, I was absolutely floored how that fight played out basically from the jump. But you know what? I kind of feel like Kulabao went out there, jumped on him, caught him a little off guard, hit him with the shot that I don't think he really saw coming. Now, I don't know if it broke his nose, but he definitely was dealing with a lot of bleeding and a lot of I'm sure blood flowing into his mouth, back to the throat, that whole deal. But here's what I want to say about that fight. He got 10-8'd on one judge's scorecard in that fight. Came back and showed some tremendous heart and some tremendous drive to come back and win round 2 and 3 of that fight. But you go look at those scorecards. They're all over the place on that fight. Those judges, I've never seen 3 different scorecards that look so different. Sure enough, it's a draw. Like you say, hey, Cody, I was in the same boat, dude. I had this dude parlayed, and to get that draw felt like a W. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying, man. I feel like, I don't know if I've got some sort of a Charles Jourdain PTSD where I just feel like I just can't trust this dude with my money anymore. I'm going to take Jourdain, but man, Guru, earlier in the week, dude, I was so close to taking Rojo. I do think it's a close fight. Jourdain is a little bit bigger. We saw it weigh-ins. I'm going to take Jourdain, but man, this fight, I just got no confidence in it. So I'm not going to be surprised if Rojo wins, and I'm not going to be surprised if we see this guy's phenomenal Velociraptor impression prancing around the octagon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check it out after this video. I got Jourdain. I'm not going to be surprised if Rojo comes in here and impresses, though. All right, so still on prelims, but our last prelim, Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder. This is a fight we already talked about, boys. We're probably not going to take too much time. What do you got, Guru?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, we talked about this last week, and it's not necessarily a fight that I think a lot of people want to hear us talk about twice, right? I mean, we already saw it happen once. The first time it happened wasn't the greatest fight in the world. Angela Hill won by decision. Second fight, I mean, I kind of see the same thing happening. I think Angela Hill is going to be able to nullify the grappling, and she's just better on the feet. She's faster. I do think Angela Hill has improved a lot. She's the girl that obviously I feel the UFC wants to win. I mean, she's, all over their TV now, and she seems like she's kind of becoming more of a facet in that thing. So, I mean, I'm going to go with Angela Hill, but yeah, not a super long breakdown. And I mean, Yoder could get the win if she can get some takedowns for sure. I mean, we've seen Angela Hill drop the ball more than once before, but yeah, I'm going to go with Angie.
Right on, Cody Safdie. Spit that stuff.
Yeah, we already broke it down, and quite literally nothing's changed. They already fought once before. We know how it went down the last time. It was a decision, as both fighters. I mean, Ashley Yoder 8 fights in the UFC, all of them gone the distance, and the first meeting was the same. I mean, she scored 3 takedowns. She wasn't able to do enough with the takedowns. Angela Hill eventually got up and was able to do the more meaningful damage standing. And that's how I see this one going as well. When you look at level of competition, I mean, since both of them fought, Angela Hill's fought 11 times in the UFC. Ashley Yoder's had 6 fights. Ashley Yoder's 6 fights, I mean, a lot of it's been middling competition. And you can look at Miranda Granger and Livian Souza, and like those are her quality victories. But again, I mean, it's over a level of competition that's not cutting it in the UFC. Meanwhile, Angela Hill, I mean, she worked her way up all the way up to a title contention fight against Claudia Gadelha, where she loses a split decision, but is very competitive, rocks Claudia Gadelha, hurts her, drops her. And beyond all that, I mean, she went 1 for 4 in takedowns. So you see Angela Hill stuffing 3 of the 4 takedowns, working on that. When she does get taken down, work her way back up. And then the next fight against Michelle Waterson. Waterson goes like 1 for 18 on takedowns. And you see it's 5 rounds. It's a close competitive fight. She does lose. But here's back-to-back split decision losses against the upper echelon of the division, former title challengers. And again, I mean, her wrestling's not letting her down. It's just she's fighting at a world-class level. Yoder, meanwhile, it's like her wrestling never really improved. Angela Hill's actually the only opponent she's ever managed to take down more than twice in a single fight. Beyond that, it's like 1 or 2 takedowns at most in a fight, and it's just a lot of trying to slow it down. So is she going to be able to go and take Angela Hill down? Potentially. Would the money side or the value side be an Ashley Yoder by decision? I guess, but no, we've seen this fight already, and I think it plays out pretty similar. Again, she might get a takedown, she might give down 2 takedowns, but Hill will work her way back up and then land the more meaningful strikes, outwork her, get that decision. When you look at Angela Hill minus 400, it's like, nah, come on, talk about trap line. But how's Angela Hill going to win this fight? By decision, right? So Hill by decision minus 175. That's the way to go. Is she submitting Ashley Yoder? No world exists where she's submitting Ashley Yoder. Is she knocking out Ashley Yoder? Yeah, it's Angela Hill, man. I mean, we've seen her batter Livian Souza for 25 minutes and not take her out. You saw what happens with Livian Souza when a modicum of power actually hits her. So, again, if anything, this is going to be closer to a sparring session. I think Hill gets the victory. Hill by decision.
Yeah, I'm going to go Angela Hill on this one, too. It's another one of those spots, man, where I just don't understand why Angela Hill should be this heavy of a favorite. I feel like she should absolutely be the favorite. It's a rematch. She won the first time. What have they done since? Well, Angela Hill looks to be improved, has fought the far better fighters. Yoder's still the same Yoder. I will say this. I feel like maybe Yoder is taking her strength and conditioning a little more seriously, does appear to be a little more fit, a little more muscular. Maybe that could be a difference here. Maybe she's going to have an ability to hold Angela Hill down. Maybe she'll actually get off some ground and pound. Maybe she'll fish for a sub, but I still don't think it's enough, man. I just think Angela Hill's better. I absolutely think this fight goes to a decision. I just don't think I'm going to have anything to do with this fight from a gambling standpoint. Cody, I think you got the move, man. If you got to go one way, I think you probably got to go Angela Hill by decision. But, man, if there's one thing that I've found out watching this sport, UFC, MMA, judges hate Angela Hill. So no matter how this fight plays out, it could still be a sweat. I had Angela Hill in some dog spots, man, where I swear she won. They ended up going the other way. What are you going to do? I'm going to take Angela Hill in this spot, but I don't know, man. Women's MMA, if Yoder wins, am I going to be absolutely baffled? Not at all, but give me Angela Hill. All right, kicking off the main card, we got Eryk Anders going up against Darren Stewart, Cody Saftik. Tell them about it.
Eryk Anders is just so unpredictable, man. I mean, you would think he has all the skills to be a legitimate, perennial contender in the UFC. He's a great athlete. He's got big power. His chin checks out. I mean, I know his striking defense is not exactly good, but you see some of those shots that Khalil Roundtree's hitting him with, or the shots that Thiago Santos is hitting him with. That puts a lot of guys unconscious. Like Eryk Anders is getting hurt, he's getting stung, he's getting dropped, but he's still clear-eyed. I'll give this guy his credit. He does have that fighter's heart. It's just his ring IQ is so abysmal, man. He just doesn't throw a ton of output. He doesn't rely on his physical gifts enough. And oftentimes he just kind of lets the fight get away from him. And this is a time and time again thing. You want to look at the old fights, the Lyoto Machida fight and the Elias Theodorou fight. You want to look at, a lot of these spots where he just kind of stares and allows too much time to pass. I can't get behind him. Great athlete, but just hasn't really been able to translate that over to MMA. Darren Stewart, I really think that he's the opposite. He came to the UFC. I had no expectations for this guy. In fact, the UFC just routinely started matching up with Bavon Lewis and Deron Winn and just mostly, wrestling, grappling heavy fighters. And he's surviving against these guys, and he's winning against these guys, and he's making them work. And there's where Darren Stewart's starting to put a lot more to his game. I mean, he came in as a pretty one-dimensional striker, but now he's added some of the wrestling. He's added some of the grappling. You see him submit Maki Pitolo. Okay, he's got a submission game. Well, what about cardio? Cardio is his issue now. Well, geez, man, look at the Kevin Holland fight. We're in the third round. I mean, he gets on top of Kevin Holland, and he's fired up. He's talking shit to him. He's trying to take him out. He ends up losing a split decision against a guy in Kevin Holland, who's now a top 10 fighter in the UFC. So I think that there are positives that you take from Darren Stewart's recent career, whereas Eryk Anders' recent career is just, this is such a letdown. And, they call him your boy. I mean, I feel like that's directed towards me because he was my boy. I loved Eryk Anders. I mean, former LFA champion. He smashed up Brandon Allen. He comes to the UFC, knocks out Rafa in the first round. I mean, third fight in the UFC, he's headlining in Brazil against Lyoto Machida, 205 pounds. It's sky looks to be the limit for this guy, but at some point he just became a deer in the headlight. He kind of stares a little too long. And my problem here is that he should have better volume than Darren Stewart, who's not a super high volume striker, but Eryk Anders just allows the volume game to get away from him too many times. So then I originally perceived, well, it's going to be a wrestling advantage for Eryk Anders. He's a bigger, physical, stronger guy, but Darren Stewart looks to make the more improvements in his own wrestling game. And then cardio, it's like Eryk Anders doesn't have bad cardio, mostly because he just paces himself too much. But with Stewart, it's like he shored up that part of his game. So it really just keeps coming back to Darren Stewart. And I think that Eryk Anders is durable enough that this thing goes the distance. Fight straight up goes the distance, minus 195. I like it, but it's a 2-to-1 price tag. It's not exactly great. But the Darren Stewart side, if you were going to take Darren Stewart and Darren Stewart was able to win a decision, it's plus 140. And that one seemed a lot better for me. So that's what the road I ended up taking is Darren Stewart by decision.
Right on. Guru, what do you think?
Yeah, me personally, this is one of these fights on the card, another one that I would have stayed completely away from. I see some people are super confident in a guy like Darren Stewart, but man, I mean, to me, I mean, if you look at it, the last fight with Kevin Holland, I mean, he looks good, but if you guys remember, I mean, Holland had that knee brace on, so I mean, he had some sort of injury in that fight with Darren Stewart too. He was still able to get the victory, and Darren Stewart had that other fight, in the pandemic where he went down and fought Fabinski at Cage Warriors, kind of laid a dud in that fight, fought a welterweight, couldn't stop the takedown and got, absolutely dominated. So, I mean, I don't feel like Darren Stewart necessarily has looked super great recently either. But, I mean, I think both these guys are kind of similar where they're low volume and they, just kind of like to use these. I mean, I feel like Darren Stewart is a guy that's a better mover. He's a lot quicker with his footwork and, he's shown in certain fights, he could use the jab like against Eric Spicely and, move around when he fought Bavon Lewis. But, I mean, those guys are all, not very high-level guys. Whereas with Eryk Anders, I mean, I think Anders is going to be the guy coming forward, and I just feel like Stewart might be able to dance around him a little bit, land some shots. But, I mean, if this fight ends up being where they just trading in the pocket, I mean, it could be like a 50-50 thing. In terms of the grappling, I don't really see anyone really having a big advantage. I'm just not super confident on Darren Stewart getting it done, but I'm going to pick him to win by decision just because I'm not a big fan of Eryk Anders. I don't really feel like Anders is that good at anything, and I feel like Stewart just might be able to have a little bit quicker hands, better movement, and maybe win that way. But I'm not super confident.
Yeah, Guru. Well, I think you just said it, man. Eryk Anders, what is this guy's skill set? And listen, you have not seen an Eryk Anders fight until you've listened to the commentary inform you 1 minute into the first round that this guy has won a national championship in 2009 with Alabama in college football. And that's like the lead off with Eryk Anders. What is this guy's skill set? He's a good athlete. He hits hard. He's really strong. And I got to say, man, he appeared to be in tremendous shape. I thought he looked to be the best we've seen in a long time, Eryk Anders. Maybe we see some growth here. But you know what? For me, this fight, I think, is a classic career trajectory type breakdown for me. And, you hear this from me a lot. Eryk Anders is a guy that, Cody, I'm with you, man. At one point, it felt like Eryk Anders, really had some prospect status, really was kind of at that fork in the road where had he gone this pathway, who knows where he could have gone, but he's gone the other. We've seen, if anything, almost a regression. We're seeing this guy seem to decline. It's like the level of competition continues to diminish, yet this guy continues to still lose fights. Whereas Darren Stewart is a guy that when he initially hit the scene, I wasn't overly impressed. I felt like he really had some clear-cut issues, and a guy that was, with a proper game plan, you could go out there and the blueprint was there to beat. I feel like Darren Stewart has showed us tremendous growth. He showed us an ability to become a more complete fighter. Eryk Anders, man, I just feel like this guy always is a wild card. Some fights he can look fairly good. Some fights he just looks like a complete bum. I just can't back a guy like that. Give me the guy that I feel a little bit more consistent about, a guy that I feel is on the career pathway upwards, whereas Eryk Anders, it just feels like a slow and steady decline. I'm going to take Darren Stewart in this matchup. All right, here we go, man. I can't wait to hear about this one. This fight's going to be a guaranteed banger. Matheus Nicolau versus Manel Kape, and this is a flyweight fight. I think Guru's going on this one.
Yeah, another really close fight. I was one of those people that I thought Manel Kape was going to be able to go in there and get the win over Pantoja, but he didn't really look good in that fight. And I mean, he was saying some things this week that I didn't really, I don't know, maybe it's true, but like he was saying that the reason why he lost to Pantoja was because he had sweaty feet. I mean, to me, that's like kind of a stupid thing to say. It's like, I mean, I get you weren't wearing shoes maybe for the first time in a long time, but it's like you still have to let your hands go regardless if your feet are sweaty. I mean, I don't know, man. But, I mean, Nicolau, he's making his return to the UFC. And, he actually was one of these guys that was a decent prospect. I mean, he dominated Luis Smolka. He was able to beat John Moraga, who's, a former title challenger. And, he had that one loss to Dustin Ortiz. And I felt like he kind of got cut. I didn't feel like he deserved to be cut, but it was kind of when the flyweight division kind of was going through that whole thing. But, I do think Nicolau, he went on the regional scene, won 2 fights, but I wasn't super impressed with his performance in his last fight. I mean, he did get rocked in the 3rd round. It seemed like he slowed down a little bit, but, he was throwing some nice flying knees in that 1st round. And I do feel like the kicks are going to be the big factor in the fight if he's to win, because I don't really feel like Manel Kape has great kicking defense, man. I mean, we never see him check any kicks. And, he was really struggling to defend the body kicks, the head kicks of Pantoja. So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of a hole in his game. But the thing with, Kape is just he's super fast, explosive, and he has that knockout power. And Nicolau has been knocked out in both of his losses. So I think that's, a key factor for Kape on the feet. I feel like he's going to be looking for that, big shot that counters. And Nicolau really just he's a southpaw, and he tries to work, or he's orthodox, I'm sorry, but he just tries to work that right hand and tries to work the low kicks. And I feel like he's going to just be looking to counter and hit takedowns, because he was training to fight Tagir Ulanbekov, who's, an Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov wrestler. So, I mean, I'm sure his wrestling is on point for this fight. So I think he's probably going to just try to chop the legs and hit takedowns. And Kape is obviously going to try to have a better performance, man, throw more volume, push the pace, more pressure. And I feel like if he can deny the takedowns and actually let his hands go, I could see him finding the knockout here. So I'm going to go with Manel Kape, but I mean, it's hard for me to, sit there and be confident in him again or bet him again after that first performance, because I just feel like he didn't let his hands go. He didn't really – it wasn't even the fact that, Pantoja beat him because he was a better fighter. It was to me like he beat him because Kape just didn't show up. So to me, I mean, I kind of want to see him, perform in the UFC. But I'm going to give him one more shot. I'm going to go with Manel Kape.
Right on. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kape as well. I mean, basically, we're banking on the what-if narrative, and this is what he should do. But listen, I mean, that's a tough debut for him. Consider all of this, right? So he's making his stateside debut, coming over from Japan. He's taking on, he's making his UFC debut. That's tough. He's coming off a 1.5-year-long layoff. That's tough. He's fighting in a cage as opposed to a ring. It's different. He's not wearing shoes. He's got to go barefoot. It's different. And he's taking on Alexander Pantoja. Like, what? It's a top 5 flyweight. He's a guy that went tit for tat, 3 hard rounds of Davidson Figueiredo in a very close competitive fight. This is not a gimme. This is not an easy fight. And you know what? He beat himself. He beat himself. He could have thrown a handful of more strikes and won that fight and chose not to. Well, guys, how often do we see someone come to the UFC and not look great in their debut and then come out that second time, feel themselves, feel a little more confident, and fight a lot better? And I feel like he's the case. He's got a lot of skill, a lot of talent. Even the Pantoja fight, one wrinkle of his game that I really wasn't expecting is people keep touting him as a good brown belt. The guy's good grapple, good brown belt. Why would you want to go to the ground with Pantoja? He didn't really. But near the end of those rounds, he would shoot for the takedown. And this guy's physically strong, man. He's very physical. He would just pick him up and dump him. He just didn't really want to grapple for a prolonged period of time. But I think as far as if he was to fight at 135, he wouldn't look out of place. He's still a very physically strong guy. He's got the power. He's got the speed. He's got the counter-punching abilities. He's got a lot of things that should play well against Matheus Nicolau. It's that you watch that fight with Pantoja, you're screaming at the TV. Not me, mind you. I had Pantoja, but think about this, okay? Dude doesn't throw anything. Dude doesn't do nothing. The commentators are all scratching their head. The pundits are all scratching their head. And still, they're announcing the decision. And I'm like, come on. It was still close. He physically didn't do anything. It was still a close fight. This guy is talented. He's just got to put it together. Now, Matheus Nicolau, I mean, as Guru pretty much nailed it. He looked good. He beat John Moraga, former title challenger, split decision, but good win. He smashes right through Luis Smolka. He loses to Dustin Ortiz, who's a top 10 guy, and albeit he did get knocked out in the first round, which is not exactly Ortiz's preferred method of victory. But all the same, it's like he was developing. He was young. He was growing. They cut the flyweight division. It's a bummer, but he just hasn't really done anything since then. He fought twice on the regional scene. Looked okay, but it wasn't against the greatest level of competition. His last time out, Brave CF, I didn't think he looked overly good. And again, that's a 1.5-year-long layoff since then. So now he's coming back in the spot. It's role reverse. Kape before had the long layoff. making his UFC debut with under the bright lights, all that uncertainty. And now it's Matheus Nicolau who's making his return to the UFC and having the long layoff and all this and that. So going back to the fight itself, it's like Cap's, I think he's going to be able to mix a couple takedowns if he wanted to. But as far as the fight stays standing, it's like he's the better boxer. He's got the quicker hands. He should be able to hit this guy. He should be able to hurt this guy. Matheus Nicolau, for a 125-pound fighter, doesn't have great cardio. So if this fight does get to the third round, especially because of the layoff, I would expect him to get tired a little bit. Cap surely must have looked at the tape and realized, and his coaches watching the tape with him, and it's like, dude, if you would have just done a little bit more here, that's your fight. Make those adjustments and go back in there. And lastly, he talks about sweaty feet, right? Sweaty feet. Well, I prefer if you had sweaty balls, because as we see with Derek Lewis, as your balls get hot, you let the hands go. This guy had sweaty feet, and he just didn't really want to quite do anything. But shout out to my boy Hunter, man. He's addressed this by saying he's taping up the feet. He's gonna wear like a foot brace almost, right? So you see it a lot of times. It's like a Muay Thai thing, but it's like the sleeve. Apparently he's going to use that for additional traction. But beyond all that, it's just working on a canvas, working in a cage. And he had spent time in Vegas before his debut, as a month or two, trying to get used to it. Didn't quite work out for him. But this is a quick turnaround, right? So one would assume he's going to have a better footing this time around, be more used to it, has more time to work, has more time, took no damage at the Pantoja fight. Quick turnaround. His timing should be there. Physically, he should be there. I'm going to give him one more crack. If he lets me down here, it is what it is. He's a busted prospect, but UFC paid good money for this guy for a reason. And last but not least, dude, he was the betting favorite over Alexander Pantoja 3 weeks ago, right? A top guy, right? So again, there's a lot of love for him. There's a lot of respect for him. He blows one dud in that he just doesn't let his hands go. And now he's like a pick 'em over Matheus Nicolau. Like, okay, I'll take a shot. Too bad our boy Almac's not in the chat. I didn't know he's a big Cap fan, but I'm going to agree with him here. I'm going to take him now Cap.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, man, this is going to be a good fight for sure. Both guys, man, the hand speed is just on point, Listen, you guys are talking about, Cody, you're talking about yelling at the TV. That was me, okay? I had Cap over Pantoja, and I was incredibly frustrated. And I did say, dude, what are you doing? But I'll keep it real. If you watch that fight, he was sliding all over the place to the point where I'm like, yo, did somebody grease the bottom of this dude's feet secretly before he came out? I don't know what was going on. Sounds like he's going to handle the issue. I'm going to tell you what, though. If this guy comes out there slipping and a sliding, live bet, baby. Live bet Nicolau. But you know what? I'm going to take Nicolau in this. And let me tell you guys why. So when you look back at the level of competition Manel Kape's fought, right? And don't get me wrong, it's Japan. So it's kind of all over the place. They matchups don't necessarily need to make sense in Japan. We just want some action, right? He's done very well. Beat a Sakura. Really accomplished some good stuff. Ended up winning whatever Risen tournament. But it's that loss to Oka Sasaki, man. I think Nicolau can come in here, use some jiu-jitsu. I really think Nicolau could have a grappling advantage in this fight. And I think he's going to be able to do it, right? This is a guy, Nicolau, who, when he was outside the UFC, which we do got to raise a red flag here. I don't like the fact that this guy did not fight in 2020. He fought in 2019, both fights outside the UFC, both fights at bantamweight. And I'll keep it real, man. The guy looked, honestly, very comfortable physically at bantamweight. Didn't appear to be undersized. I felt like he had pretty good speed. I felt like he had pretty good skills. Did seem to slow down a little bit. I was actually very, very concerned. Nicolau coming back to the UFC, fighting at flyweight, might miss weight, might look really terrible today. Man, he didn't. He looked very good, very solid. As far as the face-offs go, man, I feel like these guys are bringing some heat to the table. If you have a prop bet fight of the night, this would probably be my pick, man. I think these guys are going to go for it. But I do feel like I see a legit path to victory here for Nicolau to win this fight. This guy was one of the most hyped prospects before Henry Cejudo saved the flyweight division. He's unfortunately one of those early guys that they let go as they were kind of starting to fade out the division. And, sure enough, Henry Cejudo comes through. It's back. Nicolau's back. I think this guy's going to get back on track here. I felt like Kape was just a little too hesitant, a little too eager to counter, and I just feel like Nicolau's the guy here. I'm going to take Nicolau in this spot. But I will say this, man. Kape loses this one. I'm with you, Cody. That's a wrap. I'm done with Kape. As a matter of fact, unfortunately, if he wins this one, I'm going to be 0-2 on Kape fights. It is what it is. I got to take Nicolau. All right, here we go. Jonathan Martinez versus Davey Grant. And Cody, I think you're up on this one.
Yeah, so I think Jonathan Martinez should just walk right through. I mean, this is a card that we've pretty much been iffy on a lot of the fights because I think a lot of them are close. But Jonathan Martinez his career trajectory is just that above Davey Grant. I mean, 26 years old. You see him come to the UFC and lose to Andre Sukumantas. It's like, this guy might not last too long. But again, he's filling himself out. He's starting to find himself. He's a good striker. He's dynamic. He loves to throw the flying knee. You've seen him score 2 third-round knockouts in the UFC with the knee, that Ping Lu fight and the Frankie Saenz fight. But you just see him get a lot more comfortable in there. And going back to the Andre Ewell fight, I mean, Ewell's got the jab, obviously. He's got a little bit more output. But with Martinez, it's like I truthfully did think he won that fight against Andre Ewell. He's backing him up. He's landing some good strikes. It's like I like what I see out of him. And again, 26 years old, he's only getting better. He's only getting more comfortable. So again, after he loses to Ewell, he gets the Frankie Saenz fight. And there's the good test, right? Because again, with Jonathan Martinez, one thing that I'm really not sold on, I don't think anybody's sold on him, is like, well, can he wrestle? Like, is that going to be his problem? He doesn't show great takedown defense, but that's just because it was more early on in his career. Then against Frankie Saenz, you get the old, former ASU D1 All-American. He's got a grindy type style. He's a veteran. He fought Uriah Faber once upon a time. Like, he's got that skill in that back class. But you see where it's a lot of these guys, like, they're a little bit older, they're a little bit slower, but they're veterans taking on these young, flashy, dynamic guys. And Martinez is that, only he's filling it out. And then the crown jewel really is this Thomas Almeida fight. Thomas Almeida was once thought to be everybody's darling, right? He was actually a 3-1 favorite over Cody Garbrandt before he fought him. He was supposed to be the next big thing. Doesn't move his head at all, but was supposed to be a real legitimate prospect in the division. He's coming back from the long layoff, and they're giving him Jonathan Martinez. Well, they're both young. They're both dynamic. They're both flashy strikers. This should be a competitive fight. I didn't think it was. I think Martinez was just a step ahead of him at every turn. He was faster than him. He had the better output. He landed the better strikes, and he looked good. He very much did. Davey Grant, I'm a fan of Davey Grant, but not from a betting perspective. I just like the guy, right? But as far as being on the Ultimate Fighter goes, kind of fans out, loses to Chris Holdreth in the finals. And here's a reoccurring theme for him. Like, all of his losses really have been due to grappling. That's what he is. But he's just not the top level. Chris Holdreth just cuts right through him. Damian Stasiak's able to submit him. And then obviously the Manny Bermudez fight where he got rocked and then eventually got submitted. Going to the Martin Day fight, that's what people want to talk about. Like, oh, he's back. He's reinvented. It's like, man, he knocked down Martin Day 0-4 in the UFC. Didn't give a great account of himself. But again, Martin Day rocks him and starts to tire him. Davey Grant is not one to usually get tired, but you're seeing it now. He's 33. He takes long layoffs in between fights. His cardio is not quite there anymore. So the way to attack this one, because Jonathan Martinez is 3-1 favorite. I mean, that is a little big, especially for a money line. So, like, how do you attack this one? I think Jonathan Martinez by knockout, which is like plus 245. I say that because, again, you see he's flashy, he's dynamic, he's got some power. He has knocked out 2 opponents in that third round. But with Davey Grant, like, he got hurt by Martin Day. He got hurt by Manny Bermudez. He's been fighting a lot of grapplers, but not somebody that for 15 minutes is going to touch this guy up standing and hurt him. And beyond that, Locke mentioned this last night when him and I were speaking, but again, I mean, it makes a lot of sense is that if you wanted to chase that prop by a third round finish by Jonathan Martinez, it's a plus 1100. It's an 11-1 play. And again, you've seen him do it before. You see that this is a guy that even in the third round, he's always going for it. He's always hungry for the finish. He's throwing dynamic techniques, especially like a knee. Like, this is the kind of stuff that if it lands, is going to do some damage. I mean, Davey Grant slowing down, is hittable, is a guy that can be hurt. Just because he's not showing knockout losses doesn't mean it's not possible. And so Jonathan Martinez, just straight up TKO plus 245. But again, if you want to get bold on it and go for like that third round finish, I think Jonathan Martinez is live from one of those as well. So ultimately, I'm going to take Martinez. I'm going to take him inside the distance.
I like it. Guru, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like Jonathan Martinez is just on another level right now. I mean, you see Davey Grant, he had that really fun fight, back and forth fight with Martin Day, where I do feel like, at least he's going for it now. I feel like he's getting a little bit older, and I think he's kind of just letting it all go, having fun fights, just trying to get finishes. But, I mean, against the southpaw like Jonathan Martinez, man, that moves around, that has that really nice left kick, really nice knees, like Cody was saying, I just feel like he's going to be, a step above Davey on the feet. I just think he's going to be, moving around way better. I was questioning his boxing a little bit in his fight before he fought Thomas Almeida, but felt like his hands looked really good in that fight as well. So, I mean, I just feel like he's just looking like a really good fighter overall. And Davey Grant, to me, I mean, unless he can get the takedown, which I'm not super confident in, and even if he does, I don't think he's going to necessarily be able to control on top or get a submission, do damage. So, I mean, it could just go to the next round and it's going to start again on the feet. So I just feel like Martinez is the better fighter of the two, and it's probably going to be able to get a knockout, like Cody said. I mean, we did see Martin Day drop Davey Grant multiple times in their fight. And Martin Day isn't a guy that's necessarily a big finisher, a big power guy. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jonathan Martinez go in there and get the finish.
I'm with you guys. I think that Jonathan Martinez is far and away the better striker here. And I think this is where this fight plays out. I mean, Davey Grant coming off that KO of Martin Day, I'm almost concerned that all of a sudden this guy at 33 years old thinks maybe I got hands now. I don't know. I feel like the path to victory for Davey Grant, make this a grinding, dirty fight, get it up against the cage, use some grappling, try to win this fight, try to hold out, try to win 2 rounds before that cardio comes up. But, man, I just think Jonathan Martinez is going to be just so much quicker, the sharper technique. I just expect him to touch Davey Grant up. I got Jonathan Martinez winning this one. Again, one of those situations where I'm taking the heavy favorite that I don't think should be quite as heavy of a favorite. I do think he should be the favorite. I got Jonathan Martinez in this one. Okay. Oh, boy, here we go. I was talking about could be fight of the night. Man, this one could give it a run for the money. Dan Ige versus Gavin Tucker. And Cody, I think you're up on this one.
Yeah, this one's been killing me, man. Obviously, there's a lot of back and forth. I think both guys got a good shot. And listen, I'm gonna be like, one of the first things you learn when you start actually covering the sport is like you can't really have guys that you like. You can't have your favorite fighter anymore. Like back when we first started watching MMA, you probably got a ton of guys. You're like, oh, he was one of my favorite guys. Now it's like you just break down fighters all the time. You don't really have a favorite guy. I like Gavin Tucker. First of all, he's Canadian. Second of all, the Newfoundland Terrier guy that represents the Maritimes. My girlfriend's a huge fan of his. One of his close training partners and coaches, Pat Carroll, is friend of the family. I like the guy, but you got to put it aside at some point. I see a lot of love coming from him. I see a lot of people trying to talk me into man, go Gavin Tucker. You're going to regret it. I think he's got the skills for sure, but I am a Dan Ige guy as well. I like his style. And how does this one shake out, right? So basically, you got both guys are BJJ black belt. So with Ige versus Tucker, it's like grappling's probably going to nullify itself. Ige, you would think that he'd have a slight wrestling advantage, but I don't think his wrestling is good enough to consistently take down Tucker and hold him down. Maybe mix in a few takedowns here and there, but I don't think that's the go-to path to victory. So now you got 2 guys that are predominantly grapplers in a striking affair. Well, one would assume that Gavin Tucker's just got the better striking. I mean, he's a little more polished with his boxing. He's got a good kick arsenal, good jab. He can switch stances. He's a little more tricky. But with Dan Ige, man, I mean, he's got incredible hand speed. He's got very, very fast hands. He can beat guys to the punch. But this is what it comes down to. I have been finding myself almost flip-flopping between picks, but I'm going with Dan Ige. I'm sticking with Dan Ige. The key reason being with Gavin Tucker, he takes an absolute life-changing beating at the hands of Rick Glenn. And since then has come back to the UFC and looked good, won 3 fights. But you have to realize, Sung-Won Choi, he exposes him with the grappling deficiency, right? The Ryan James fight, the Justin James fight, it's like, man, James had some moments in that fight and isn't exactly like a top 30 guy by any stretch. And then with Billy Carantillo, it's like he's just not physically strong enough, nor does he have the striking to really back it up. When you look at Dan Ige, they've done absolutely no favors for this guy, whether it be taking on the Tuhugovs of the world, but beyond that, fighting Calvin Kattar, fighting Edson Barbosa, fighting guys that are ranked in the top 5, guys that are ranked in the top 10 and continuously delivering. Yeah, he got beat up by Calvin Kattar 4-1 in his last time out, but he gave him a go. It was a 5-round headlining fight. His cardio checked out. His chin checked out. His heart checks out. He just needs to go back to the drawing board and make improvements. Fighting Calvin Kattar is a tough task, man. The guy's a top 5 guy in the world, and largely, people talk about how he's got some of the best boxing in the division. He's a legitimate competitor. Edson Barbosa, it's like that was Edson Barbosa dropping down to 45. I think it was for the first time. And it's like he's a dynamic, very special talent. Not only that, he's got Dan Ige completely rocked and hurt in the first round, and Ige perseveres and he fights his way back into it. The level of competition is night and day. If you get Dan Ige, the opponents that Gavin Tucker's been fighting, yeah, we'd all be talking about him like he's a world beater. If Gavin Tucker, meanwhile, had to fight Calvin Kattar and Edson Barbosa, he'd likely have a couple knockout losses on his record. So I think that honestly, you can say that Gavin Tucker has been really looking good, and I agree he has. It's just against a much different level. Whereas Dan Ige, I mean, he's the younger fighter. He's coming to his own. He's already fighting world-class guys. Last but not least, Gavin Tucker's I think 34 years old. So this is him in his prime or him at the end of his prime. But this is the best version you should see of him, physical shape or not. Whereas Dan Ige is just getting better and better every time out. Does he need experience? Yes. Does he need to suffer a few losses like the Calvin Kattar one? Yes. But that's all growing, right? That's all learning, and that's all getting better. And so I think he comes out here, uses that hand speed, uses that aggression, comes forward, and just tries to outland him. And if he can't outland him clean, if he's not getting the better of these strikes, is take him down. Last but not least is that Dan Ige does not appear to have durability issues. I mean, Edson Barbosa had the guy cooked. Calvin Kattar landed some of his best shots. He can take a great punch and roll on. Gavin Tucker, it's not that he has durability issues, but you see how Rick Glenn put an absolute beating on him, and you see how Justin James is able to hurt him and kind of, have him stumbled in that fight. If this becomes a dirty dog fight and it gets dragged into the trenches, I think I would favor the scrappy Hawaiian Dan Ige. So I know I have to betray Canada here, and I do honestly feel bad about it, but the pick is going to be Dan Ige.
Right on, Guru. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going with Dan Ige too, and I do think it's a close fight. Gavin Tucker, to me, probably is the better striker, but to me, he's more of like a pretty striker. He likes to throw like 1-2 shot combinations, pot shot and move, or hit the takedown or clinch up with you. I do think he has good, his clinch work is good. He clinches up those nice knees to the body and good elbows. He can disengage real well after that. But I feel like he's been fighting these guys like Sung Woo Choi, even a guy like Billy Q, that they have real suspect takedown defense, man. When they're pressuring Gavin Tucker, they're getting in the pocket. Tucker's able to level change, get it to the ground, slow the pace of the fight down. Whereas you saw, in the fight that Cody talked about a few times with Rick Glenn, when, Rick Glenn was walking him down, getting in his face, and Tucker was landing that check hook, the couple shot combinations that he throws, and Glenn was still staying in the pocket and, throwing shots back at him, backing him up. He was shooting real bad takedowns. And, once Glenn was able to start stuffing the takedowns, you saw the cardio of Tucker really go down. You saw Glenn start to reverse the takedowns, get on top. And with Gavin Tucker, I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to hit takedowns on Dan Ige like some other people feel like he could do, because, we saw Dan Ige versus Mirsad Bektic. And Mirsad Bektic, he's not obviously a great fighter. He's been dropped a lot of balls, but he's a real good grappler. To me, he's a much better wrestler than a guy like Gavin Tucker. So, the fact that Ige was able to grapple with a guy like Mirsad Bektic, be fairly successful, I feel like he's going to have the wrestling advantage here against a guy like Gavin Tucker. And I feel like another thing in that fight with Rick Glenn that I didn't really like, and I don't know if it's because he was already hurt pretty badly before that, but we haven't been able to really see him on his back since then. I didn't feel like he looked very good on bottom against Rick Glenn. He was letting Rick Glenn, move into dominant positions, posture up, and really put a lot of damage on him. Whereas I feel like Dan Ige, if he can get on top, maybe he could have a big advantage. We did see Justin James almost get that guillotine too after he knocked him down. But good defense from Gavin Tucker. He is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so definitely knows what he's doing down there. I just feel like Ige might be a little bit better grappler, and I think his forward pressure and boxing, might be a little bit better than the flashier strikes of Tucker. So I'm going to go with Dan Ige.
Whoo, it's a tough one. I'm going Tucker on this one, you guys. Dan Ige has 60% takedown defense. I really think Tucker's able to get this guy down, and I think he's going to be able to hold him down. I am worried about the reach advantage. Both guys are similar size, but Dan Ige's got quite a bit of reach here. I feel like Gavin Tucker would be making a mistake. This is a guy, Dan 50K Ige, 50K because he's always looking for that fight of the night. But previous to that, this was Dynamite Dan Ige. And this guy, definitely has some hands, some heavy hands. He touches you, could cause some serious problems here. Man, Gavin Tucker, you guys talked about it, man, that Rick Glenn fight. I feel like I've been holding on to that fight for so long. I just can't get over it. I think I'm over it, man. Gavin Tucker, I feel like this guy's grown. I know he's 34 years old. I know he's, honestly, on the back end of his prime. I really feel like Gavin Tucker does have a path to victory here. I think he could go in here and take Dan Ige down. 3-round fight. All he needs to do is get him down, hold him down, 2 out of the 3 rounds. I think he can do it, man. I'm going to take Tucker in this spot. I know it's a little bit risky, but man, I just feel like Tucker's going to win this one. So give me Tucker. I think he is the slight underdog. I'm rolling with the dog on this one, boys. Okay, we are up to the co-main event. Misha Cirkunov versus Ryan Spann. Guru, spit that hot fire.
Man, this is another fight, man, where I feel like both these guys are so untrustworthy, man. It's like
listen, we talked about Cody. We were talking about before a show. It was so much easier to remember the names of the events when they had like a title, right? This is UFC Vegas 21, untrustworthy. Go ahead, Guru.
But shit, it's like Johnny Walker versus Riot Spann, right? It's like that fight, it kind of is like the epitome of Riot Spann in a certain way. It's like he's dominating the fight, and he's done this multiple times where he shoots in on takedown against the cage, just leaves his head right there to be elbowed, gets taken out. And in that fight with Johnny Walker, it just looked ridiculous too because he gets hit to the back of the head. I mean, it was an illegal shot. It's like 4 or 5, and he goes up and is like talking to the ref, like right when he's still in the clinch, and he gets elbowed right in the head and knocked out like 1 second later after he's telling the ref like those were shots to the back of the head. So, I mean, and then you see Misha Cirkunov, who it's like, have we ever seen Misha Cirkunov get into a bad position and, come out the other side? Because I mean, I guess the fight with Jimmy Crute, but even in that fight, it was like, I feel like Crute easily, if he had a little bit more composure, could have finished the fight because he went so wild to finish, and Misha just, it was cool the way he locked in that Peruvian necktie, got the sweep. But to me, that was more of the fault of Jimmy Crute. And then you see you see Misha's fight with Johnny Walker, where he just gets flying knee in the first 20 seconds of the fight's over. So it's like Volkan Ozdemir versus Misha Cirkunov. He gets hit with like one little punch to and he gets knocked out. So it's like with these guys, it's hard to trust either guy. I mean, Ryan Spann, I feel like is the better striker, but I mean, both of them have durability issues. Misha's a southpaw. He throws that, big left kick. He has that good left cross down the middle, but to me, he's kind of a little bit plodding and, robotic on the feet. I definitely feel like Ryan Spann is way better at range, much faster, and he has a crazy reach. He has like an 83.5-inch reach, whereas Misha only has like 77 inches. So, I mean, I feel like on the feet, I think Ryan Spann's going to have the advantage and could knock out Misha, but it's like if he gets clipped too, he could go down as well. I mean, you've seen him rocked in multiple fights, and, in terms of grappling, both these guys are grapplers, so that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, you see Ryan Spann, he has a good top game for sure, good sweeps off bottom, and he has a really good guillotine, man. I mean, that's probably the most dangerous part of his game is that guillotine. And Misha Cirkunov, I mean, if he gets on top of you, he's shown, a lot of variety of submissions, stuff like that. So one thing I will say is, Ryan Spann, I felt didn't look very good at the weigh-ins today, so that's something that you kind of have to talk about. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm struggling to pick a winner for this fight, but I'm actually just going to go with the underdog. I'm going to pick Ryan Spann because I feel like he's the better athlete and the better striker, and his grappling is pretty good. I mean, he has good takedown defense. We saw in the fight with Devin Clark, who I think is, probably a more explosive wrestler than Misha. He was able to defend the takedowns pretty well and ultimately, submitted Devin Clark. So I'm going to go with Ryan Spann, but I mean, I could see Misha taking him down, getting a submission. I mean, the only thing is Ryan Spann's only been submitted by Robert Drysdale. So it's like, that's, I don't think Misha's even on that same level. So, I mean, Ryan Spann is a good grappler. So I'm just going to take Ryan.
Right on. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, okay, so I took Ryan Spann as well, but that weigh-in certainly did nothing for my confidence, man. Like, he comes in half a pound overweight, which is never a great sign. Does cut, makes 206, so, that is a good sign, but he looked zapped, he looked drained, and it's going to be a bit of a problem in that you see in the Sam Alvey fight where he presumably had a good weight cut. It's like the longer these fights go, man, he gets tired, and once he gets tired, his game just completely goes out the window. Misha Cirkunov, if he takes you down and he ends up on top of you, you're in a world of hurt. And it's not just he's a great grappler, which he is, and BJJ black belt under Sam Zakula, he's got the works. It's like you see the Alex Nicholson neck crank, right? It's like a jaw crank where he just breaks his jaw, right? You see the Peruvian necktie. It's like these are all power moves or strength moves. Like, it only needs a limb or a neck for a few seconds, and once he gets a squeeze on you, like, you're not going anywhere. You see how the dude's built. Like, okay, we rep the guy from Canada, but like, no, he's built like where he's from, Latvia. Dude is a thick Latvian man. He's extremely strong. But I remember in his UFC debut, Brian Stan's open speculating on commentary. He's like, does he have a back injury? Like, why does he move so like stiff? It's like, that's how he strikes. He's not exactly a great striker. He has worked on like throwing up that head kick and, a couple decent hooks. Like he's a powerfully built guy. He's got some power, but striking's not his domain. And yeah, we can write an excuse for him. Oh, well, he only got knocked out by Volkan Ozdemir and Johnny Walker. Like, it's going to happen, but it's the method in which he's getting knocked out, which is like absolutely stiffened. His fight against Glover, we talk about how good his grappling is, but like he looked scared in the Glover fight. And as soon as Glover got on top of him, his grappling just went right out the window. And then, yeah, the Jimmy Crute fight, like he's having his way with Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute ends up on top of him and starts battering him. It looks like the ref's warning him, like, dude, you got to do something here. And it looks like he's about to accept it. But Jimmy's like 22 years old and is just staring at this, victory and just goes balls to the walls and ends up getting swept and gives up the Peruvian necktie. Jimmy will be a better man because of it. But Misha's now taken off a year and a half since then. He's 34 years old. Cardio was always an issue. Speed's kind of an issue, but he's just got a nasty ground game. So here's the thing. Every fight starts standing. With Ryan Spann, he's got that power. If he hits Misha, I would think he'd knock him out. Ryan Spann by knockout was +2, I think it was 270. It's like, this is a nice looking price tag. He's got more than a chance to go out there and knock Misha. But if Misha ends up on top of him, it's going to go the other way. So this is a degenerate bet, right? It's very volatile. It could go both ways. A lot of people are pro Misha with the submission. A lot of people are pro Ryan Spann with the knockout. Regardless, it's like, boys, let's just go after that under 1.5 rounds at -140. Misha's last 6 fights have ended in the first round. He's had 9 fights in the UFC, 7 of which have ended inside of the first round. And with Ryan Spann, it's like, he's got big power. He likes to go out there and land early and get the knockout. How has he been losing? Oh, wow, wouldn't you know it, in the first round. So I feel like both guys are going to meet. And listen, if Spann had a bad weight cut, gets taken down and gets and beat here, yeah, we're going to hit that under. If Spann's weight cut, it's not a big deal and he lands first, we're going to hit that under. And if for whatever reason, Spann knows it was a bad weight cut, I'm fighting on borrowed time here. I don't want to fight for 15 minutes. And he decides to just be aggressive and go for it. It's really going to help this under 1.5 rounds. So that's the move I would say. If you're not really sold on a clear, concise winner on either side, just go for that under 1.5 -140.
Yeah, that probably makes a lot of sense, man. I'm going to end up going Cirkunov in this one. Guru, you said, though, man, Spann's only been submitted 1 time. Robert Drysdale, a guy who was so on the juice, so sauced up. This guy never even got to make his debut in the UFC, right? First drug test they gave him, they said, dude, you're on everything. And sure enough, the guy just never even got the shot. I think he's still a jiu-jitsu coach out of Las Vegas, though. World-renowned. The guy knows his stuff. So to get submitted by a guy on that level, not surprising at all. But man, Ryan Spann, we've talked about the untrustworthiness, the lack of heart, the lack of drive, the lack of success some of these fighters have had. And man, I just have a really tough time fully getting behind either one of these dudes. I mean, Misha Cirkunov, like you guys said, this guy's had 2 first-round KOs in 30 seconds. Now, look at the guys. I mean, Volkan Oezdemir hits him with the boop. Say what you will about that shot. I think it probably had a little bit more impact than it would seem. Johnny Walker blows through, stiffens this guy up more than he already is, like my man Cody's talking about. You know what, though, man? Ryan Spann at weigh-ins today, I do think he had the worst cut of anyone. If there's any notes on this weigh-in that we saw today, it's Ryan Spann needed the extra hour to cut another half pound, comes in at 206.5, just barely makes it. He's going to hold on to that 20% of his purse. But I do feel like that is just that extra little bit that's going to push me on the Cirkunov side. I'll keep it real, man. I think Cirkunov's live for that sub. I think it happens. I mean, this is a guy, Ryan Spann, who's going to split decisions with the guy in Sam Alvey. I mean, Trevin Giles, another middleweight, and not even a big middleweight, has beaten Ryan Spann. I just question the dedication and the motivation and the heart of a guy like Ryan Spann. But then I also got to question the durability of a guy like Misha Cirkunov. Cody, I think you might have got it, dude. Look at the numbers. Seems like that under 1.5 should be a hitter. I'm going to take Misha Cirkunov in this one, though. But, oh, man, who knows really, right? It's good. There's a reason they made this the main event. It's going to be action-packed as long as it lasts, I think. And we've done it again, boys. UFC Vegas 21, we're at the main event. We don't have our boy Locke with us tonight, but let's dedicate this one to him. Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. Guru, why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, interesting fight. I mean, Belal Muhammad, both these guys, actually, when you think about it, have a lot to lose in this fight. I mean, if Leon Edwards loses this fight, I mean, all those talk about him fighting for the title, anything like that goes out the window. And in my opinion, I mean, a lot of people say Belal has nothing to lose, stuff like that in this fight. But, I mean, every single time the UFC has given him this step up, he's kind of gotten dominated. I mean, if you think when he fought Alan Juban, when he fought Vicente Luque, when he fought Jeff Neal. So if he comes out here and just loses 50-45 again, he'd have to probably win 4 or 5 more fights in a row to get another, opportunity at a top 10, top 5 guys. So I think it's a big fight for both guys, and they're both really motivated, man. I mean, that stare down was pretty good today. I feel like Belal this week has been doing a good job talking to, like, he seems like he's confident. So that's something that I like to see. I mean, he is someone that's been kind of chirping that he feels like he's one of the best guys in the division. He wants his chance to fight these guys. So he's finally getting his chance here, and he's fighting a guy in Leon Edwards that's like probably one of the most disrespected top 5 guys in the UFC, right, in any weight class. So I mean, Edwards hasn't fought in a long time either, so this is his comeback after about a year and a half off. He was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley, Chimaev a couple of times, so he has been having training camps. And when I saw him, on social media during the week, he does look like he's in really good shape. So I think he's going to come in here and look good. I mean, he's only 29 years old, so I don't feel like the layoff is going to be that big of a factor. Maybe he'll start a little bit slow or something, but I feel like he's going to look just as good, if not better, than he did in the past. And for Bilal Muhammad, I mean, we just saw him fight a month ago, so he's like on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And I mean, that fight he did dominate, but he did take a lot of leg kicks in that fight. And definitely, I feel like, I don't know if he's been training, full bore for the last 4 weeks. I mean, he probably definitely had to at least take a couple weeks off. So, I mean, I do think he's going to come in here with great cardio, like always, and come to fight, but maybe a little bit compromised, just a little bit, but just looking at the fight, I mean, I feel like Muhammad, he's obviously going to have to try to use that forward pressure, get on the inside, and Leon, he's the southpaw, which to me, Bilal has struggled with a lot in the past. I mean, if you watch his fight with Jeff Neal, he was getting blasted with those left crosses, with the jabs. He was eating that left high kick. So, I mean, I feel like he kind of struggles with shots from that left side, which, I mean, Leon's one of the best southpaws in the UFC, man. He's going to be a lot more, in my opinion, faster and pinpoint than a guy like Jeff Neal, even though Neal, I do think, hits a lot harder than a guy like Leon. But, I mean, I feel like Leon on the feet is going to have a big advantage. I mean, Bilal, he doesn't really move his head too much. He doesn't use a lot of feints either. So, like, when he closes the distance, I feel like he's kind of obvious the way he tries to get on the inside. And Leon Edwards, I will say, he does back straight up to the fence. So Bilal, I feel like, is going to be able to back him up. But when they get there, I mean, Leon is just really good at landing a shot, exiting, and just kind of resetting. He has the better footwork. And I feel like if Bilal tries to get in the clinch and push that, I mean, we've seen Leon has some of the best, clinch offense, or some of the best clinch offense in the UFC. I mean, those elbows off the break are really nasty. And I feel like he's going to be, the more offensive guy in the clinch. I don't think Bilal really has a lot of great weapons there. Another thing I think Bilal could maybe use on the feet is low kicks, because Leon doesn't really check leg kicks, but Bilal isn't really a great kicker, in my opinion. I mean, when I see him throw like his rear kicks, his leg kicks, they seem real slow. So I think that Leon is going to be able to counter if he's trying to throw those southpaw orthodox leg kicks. And, in terms of the grappling, I mean, I feel like they're pretty even. I mean, Bilal's a good wrestler. He can chain wrestle against the cage, and that's what he's going to need to do here, good level changes. I don't see him necessarily taking down Leon Edwards in the open with a level change, though. I think he's going to have to get him against the cage, really chain wrestle hard to take him down if he can. And I don't necessarily see Muhammad really having a lot of success with that. So, I mean, I could even see Edwards maybe even getting some takedowns. I mean, Edwards is probably one of the best European wrestlers in the UFC. So, I mean, I just feel like Leon Edwards is way better on the feet. He has better footwork. He, throws better combinations, faster hands. And, I mean, Bilal Muhammad is a super tough guy. That's the one thing you could give him, right? I mean, you see his fights with Alan Jouban, even his last fight with Diego Lima, he's getting his leg chopped, still walking forward. So I don't necessarily think Leon is going to finish him. Leon's not a guy that has a lot of finishes. He's not a big power guy. So I think it's going to be one of those fights where it's like Bilal Muhammad, he's making the fight, I don't know if it's even going to say competitive, but he's pushing Leon. He's making it a hard fight, and maybe he's losing like every single round. Similar to that fight, maybe Calvin Kattar versus Dan Ige, like where Leon's just outclassing him, but Bilal shows his toughness for 5 rounds, and it's a fun fight, but I think Leon will kind of dominate.
Sounds good to me. Cody Saftik, what do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I could not tell you a guy that's more avoided in the fight game than Leon Edwards. Nobody wants to fight this guy. First of all, maybe he doesn't have the biggest name or the biggest reputation, or doesn't sell the tickets, or he doesn't have the exposure, but just like they don't want to fight him because there's no what's the risk versus reward? If I beat this guy, no one's heard of him. Mm-hmm. If I lose to this guy, more likely scenario, it does nothing for me. And so nobody wants to fight him. Usman doesn't have to fight him because he already defeated him. Okay. Leon Edwards has won 8 in a row since then. But aside from that, okay, Usman doesn't have to fight him. Colby's on record. Colby's my boy. Colby's on record being like, I'm not fighting him. George Masvidal sucker punched him, but he's on record being like, I don't want to fight him. Tyron Woodley bailed out of the fight with him. Nobody wants to fight this guy. They're just like, no. And so it becomes a funny thing on joke. Leon who? Who's this guy? It's funny. It's all ha-ha, but it's like, no, there's a reason why you don't want to fight him. He's got skills everywhere. He really does. He's got great cardio. He's got good composure. He's got good ring IQ. his striking, he doesn't have a ton of volume. I'd like to see a little bit more out of him. He doesn't have a ton of like, stinging power as well, but there's very few guys that strike as well in the clinch as him. And, just exiting with that elbow time and time again. It's crazy how a guy like Donald Cerrone even, where it's like the first three of them nail you, you're going to make an adjustment, right? It's like you can't, because as you're clinched up with them, as soon as you pull away, it's like smang, he smashes you in the face. Now, winning against a guy like Donald Cerrone and Rafael dos Anjos and Gunnar Nelson, maybe you're looking at these guys that they're kind of in the later stages of their careers, but they're legitimate victories. He's gone 5 rounds twice. That's all championship round experience that he's got in his back pocket. That's all well and good. When you look at Belal Muhammad's not taking this fight because this is the next guy in line. He's taking this fight by virtue of like there's nobody else for Edwards to fight. This is a forced layoff. This is not a voluntarily layoff. The guy wants to fight. The guy's routinely signing on the dotted line. His opponents are not showing up. But in this last year and a half, Guru mentioned in social media, boy is shredded good shape. Now think about the concept of you're going to fight Chimaev, right? It's like, man, Khamzat Chimaev is just going to look to take me down and grind me. So you work on that. You work on the wrestling. You work on the grappling. You work on the cardio. I'm going to have to take this guy to deeper waters. You get the best version of yourself. Even the Tyron Woodley fight, joke of a fight, but it's like that would be your coming out party because everybody who beats Tyron Woodley gets the rub. Oh, you beat a former champion. Now you're the next guy in line. Colby got a rub off him. Usman got a rub off him. Gilbert Burns got a title fight from beating him. Would have been a good spot for Leon Edwards. But again, it's not his fault his opponent falls out. He just continues to try to get better. So even though he's coming off this long layoff, I just think you're going to see an improved version of him. And so going back to the rankings, you got Leon Edwards is legitimately the number 3 or 4 guy in the world. He's bona fide top 5, but he's one of the upper echelon guys. Belal Muhammad, he's like number 12 or 13 in the world. Again, he's not fighting Edwards because these are the next 2 guys in line. He's fighting him because he's taking this fight on short notice. And you look at his track record, it's like, okay, so you beat Curtis Millender. You beat Takashi Sato. You beat Diego. Douglas Lima would have been a sick win, but you beat Diego Lima. Leon Edwards cruises through these guys. Leon Edwards beats these guys in a spectacular fashion, right? That to me is not impressive, right? But, even just taking those leg kicks at Diego Lima, he's on like a 3-week turnaround, but his leg got absolutely chewed up in his last fight. So again, you don't just wake up on Sunday and be like, I'm going to the gym. You allow your body to rest, rejuvenate, and then the call rings. We need somebody to step up. You got to be a company man. Why? Because that's why the UFC keeps giving you these softball matchups. They've given you step-ups. Again, Guru already mentioned this. The Alan Jourdain fights a step-up, he loses. The Jeff Neal fights a step-up, he loses. The Vicente Luque fight was a step-up, and he lost pretty badly in that one. When they give him these lower-end guys, he shines, right? But when they call you and they say, we need you to take this fight, you take the fight. You don't turn it down. You become the company guy. Belal Muhammad is the company guy. As far as the style matchup, okay, how could Belal get this done? I think he can get it done on the forward pressure and the striking output. Belal Muhammad's a guy that likes to let his hands go. He likes to go out there and throw over 100 significant strikes, land over 100 significant strikes. And with Leon Edwards, he's a little bit slower output. So maybe Belal can try to force him back against the cage and just try to outstrike him. But ultimately, once he backs him up, I think Leon Edwards is going to clinch with him. Once they're in the clinch, he's going to realize it's game for Edwards. As far as it being a distance, Edwards is faster. He's a little ranger. He's got that reach. I think he's just going to pot shot at him, use his own low calf kick, same thing Lima did, kick him in the leg, pot shot him, allow him to rush forward, and then clinch up with him. I think speed advantage will go Edwards. 5-round championship experience goes Edwards. Belal hasn't fought 5 rounds since his Titan FC days a long time ago, but he's on short notice, right? Surely when you're getting ready to fight Chimaev, it's like, I need to take this guy to deeper waters because no one's done that yet. Maybe that's how I'm going to exploit this guy. I've got 5 rounds to work with. Got to be in great shape. When you see this guy, how he's been training, he appears to be in great shape. That's tough for Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad's won a lot of fights just on the basis of being in better shape. He outwills you over the course of 3. Slow starter, but just outwills you. I don't think it's going to happen here against Edwards. So I've got Leon Edwards. And again, we're looking at a minus 260. I don't think that's a terrible price tag, but I would want to make it better. And so I think this fight goes the distance. Looking at that, bookies all over it, right? They think this fight's going the distance as well. So got Leon Edwards by decision. Just to try to, it's plus 120, right? So that's how I'm going to turn my minus 260 to a plus money play. But I do get the problem with betting props, right? Like this is a 5-round fight, it's 25 minutes at any point. And also what I learned from last week with Peter Yan is like you could be in the driver's seat and cruise control and still lose. So the longer fights the more time there is in a fight, the more time there is for a mental lapse. Anyways, I hope that Edwards just minds his P's and Q's, does what he's got to do, wins this one by decision. I'd be happy with that. But I think this is a tough fight on short notice for Belal Muhammad.
Yeah, and Cody, man, I just think that's the whole story of the fight. I feel like Bilal probably could give a pretty good account of himself in this fight. And I think he would give an even better account of himself if he actually had a full training camp leading up to this. And speaking of training camp, my man Leon Edwards, this has got to be like the 8th training camp this dude's entered for a targeted opponent. He's finally let's cross our fingers. We still have fight day, right? And the way we've been losing fights as of late, man, it seems like nothing's for certain. Fingers crossed, Leon Edwards actually fights tomorrow. It's been a year and a half. This guy's so ducked. Everybody drops out. The Hamzat issue, we know all about that. The fight's been scheduled, at least 3 times at this point. Sure enough, it still doesn't happen. Bilal Muhammad, hats off to the guy. Mad respect for the turnaround to come off that fight he had, which don't get me wrong, clear-cut win. He definitely won the fight. But, man, he did not come out unscathed. And you guys both touched on it, man. I'm very worried about that lead leg of Bilal Muhammad. We know a healthy calf sometimes is done, smoked, finito, after 3 good solid calf kicks. Imagine this guy on a 80% calf coming into this fight against a guy like Leon, who's just so deadly, so well-rounded, and now he's going to have to go 25 minutes with that lead leg out there. If I'm Leon Edwards, dude, I'm chopping, I'm investing in the calf very early. I like Bilal Muhammad. I've made a lot of money on this guy. I love backing this guy. I just don't think this is the spot, man. I truly think Leon Edwards is one of the elite, one of the best. You guys said, man, on social media, look at this dude. He's always in shape. He appears to have taken it to another level. This dude is cut. I think he's ready to go. I think he's motivated. I think we're looking at a very frustrated guy, a guy who has sat out 18 months of the absolute prime of his career. We all may have forgotten about Leon Edwards. I think tomorrow he goes out there, puts on a performance, puts out a statement that says there's no forgetting about Leon Edwards anymore. I'm for real. I'm up next. Dana White says he wins this fight. He's absolutely going for the title. I think he does. I think Leon Edwards probably wins this fight round 4 or 5. I think Leon inside the distance is very doable, considering I am just worried about that lead leg of Bilal. The Lyman Good fight. We saw Bilal win the first 2 rounds, eats a big shot from Lyman. Sure enough, holds on and survives, which I got to tell you, I had a big bet on Bilal. I was sweating and yelling at my dude to get up and survive. He does. He gets the win. But, man, I'm telling you right now, if we're looking at a similar scenario with Leon Edwards, who I do think is a better striker, a more dangerous striker, man, he probably doesn't survive that 3rd round. And he absolutely does not go on to win that fight with a 4th and 5th round. I got Leon Edwards in this one. I think he reminds us all who he is. If anything, might show us that he's on yet another level against a very high-level, very well-rounded guy in Bilal Muhammad, albeit on short notice. Leon Edwards is the guy for me. So there you go, folks. UFC Vegas 21. It's wrapped up. I'm going to throw it to the dudes before we get out of here. Guru, where can they find you?
Yeah, like always, you could find me at MMA Prediction Guru on YouTube, Twitter. It's Prediction MMA. So, yeah, if you want to hit me up, definitely you can hit me up. We could talk fights. You could talk about whatever, and yeah, man, definitely going to be a fun card tomorrow, and I'm definitely looking forward to UFC 260. So, gonna be excited for that, and yeah, it should be a fun card. Hopefully, we can make some money tomorrow.
Absolutely, Cody Saftik, tell them where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely find me on Twitter at CJ Saftik, and this is a UFC hangover card for sure. You get the big pay-per-view last week. It's got 3 title fights. It's got all these exciting bouts. You feel good about it. Didn't really work out the way we'd have hoped, but all the same, you got all that excitement. Now you get the card. It's floating under the radar. A lot of people say they don't care about it. They don't have no interest in the main event. It's lackluster. It's this and that. It's like, these are the ones where we shine, ultimately. These are the ones where you can go out, find a couple spots. I don't want to force any of the action here, but ultimately, it's we're fight fans. We watch all these fights, and you're gonna come across a couple gems here and there. So hopefully we're able to help you guys tonight, and yeah, enjoy the fights tomorrow. If you need anything at all, hit me up on Twitter. I'll definitely do my best to get to it. But besides that, yeah, I gotta go catch up on CFFC right now. I think Team Canada might be in trouble.
And yeah, guys, it's been UFC Vegas 21. I've been your host, Bleed. Big thank you to Guru. Big thank you to Cody. And, of course, shout out to our man, Locke, who couldn't join us tonight. We'll catch him next week for sure. Thank you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for watching. And if you're watching the replay, anything, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Odds HQ, baby, and odds.com. We got the recap. We got Clint. We got Locke and Cody on Thursdays. And, of course, the Friday show where you can catch all 3 of us and my man, Locke. It's been great. It's been fun. Let's have some fun. Let's cash some tickets. We are the Odds Squad, and we're out of here, baby.